Welcome back, everybody. Now to your money and the $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill. We've heard a lot about what's in the bill, enough to essentially make your head spin. Joining me now is Brandon Arnold from the National Taxpayers Union to help us break this down. Good evening, sir. Let's go ahead and start with this. The plan claims to spend $9 billion by capping Medicare spending, but you say not so fast, not so easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable some of the offsets, the pay-fors that they've inserted into this bill to try to make it deficit neutral. They're saying they're going to cut $9 billion from Medicare, but those cuts won't take place for 9 or 10 years. So they want to spend money immediately and then pretend to cut money in the future when many of these politicians won't even be in office anymore. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's just paper cuts for actual spending that will drive up deficits.
Wow. All right. Next, it claims to save money by selling off Spectrum broadband that could be used for better telecommunications. So the question is, what's the problem there?
Well, on its face, that's a good policy. The problem is it's already part of law. It's already happening. In fact, we sold $67 billion worth of spectrum back in February. This already took place. So pretending like that money is some form of offset, it's already coming to the federal government. There's additional $20 billion they say they can squeeze out of spectrum auctions. That's fantastic. We should absolutely do that. But that is already scheduled to take place. So it's not a real offset. It's just a paper switch. Doesn't make sense.
So let me ask you, how do they actually do that, like in accounting purposes? If the money has already been booked to a certain extent, like you can't, claim that you're going to receive it later. It's already been booked. So how do they get away with this?
Well, they shouldn't be able to. If they want to make cuts, and they ought to make cuts, they ought to make this a deficit neutral package. They need to actually make legitimate cuts. What they're doing now is pointing to certain revenue streams that are already coming in and saying, hey, guess what? These are now earmarked for our infrastructure package. It's just a paper switch. It actually has no legal effect at the bottom line. It's just nonsense.
All right, that's a serious problem. I'm going to get to another one that people are going to be outraged about, I think. It claims to scale back the unemployment benefits that were expanded due to COVID-19.
Right. So 26 governors have already taken action to cut off those expanded unemployment benefits. That was a wise move because we need to get people back working, and small businesses shouldn't have to compete with the government to try to secure these employees. But that generated a lot of savings. That's a good thing. Those savings should be used for deficit reduction. They're saying they're an offset, but that money is already saved, and the governors that cut off those benefits deserve a lot of credit for doing so. They're inherently trying to take a bit of credit and use that money, saying that they've come up with a clever offset. They've come up with nothing. Again, they're just trying to grab some of that money already coming back to the federal government or not being spent by the federal government and pretending like it's a legitimate way to offset the cost of this package.
Wow. Okay. There's also this new $13 billion tax on chemical companies. Ultimately, that's going to be a serious problem when it comes to jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. And they said they would do this without tax increases. This is a tax increase. People think, well, it's just on these large chemical companies, but it has real effects. Of course, those costs get passed down to consumers eventually, and it has the unfortunate effect of killing jobs. There's a study out there that says 7,500 fewer jobs because of this tax. That's really problematic, again, as we're trying to climb out of this recession, as we're trying to recover as a nation. To be raising taxes on American businesses, it's a bad idea.
In the last 15 seconds that we have together, Brandon, is there anything good in here?
Well, I think it's good that they're clawing back some of the COVID dollars. They're claiming $205 billion from the COVID expenditures will be used for infrastructure. I think that's a good thing. Unfortunately, there's about $1 trillion still floating out there, so I think they could do a lot better. They should be able to get a lot closer to $1 trillion instead of this meager $205 billion that they found.
I hear what you're saying. It's a help, but it's not enough. Wonderful to see you. Have a good weekend, sir.
Thank you.
All right, up next, Sean Duffy.